Another week goes by and it's that time again to do Championship Rugby League with the main man himself, Mr. Craig Lingard. Craig, another week goes. How are you, mate? You well?
Yeah, very well, mate. Weekend off for us, so nice and fresh, and all guns blazing for this Friday in the Challenge Cup. So looking forward to this week.
Fantastic. How did the family find having you around for a change at the weekend?
Yeah, they all left house and left me on my own.
Happy days, happy days. But no. I mean, in terms of the lads, were they given a bit of time off with a 2 week break? What was the training schedule like?
Yeah, we trained Tuesday, Thursday last week, and we're normally in Friday for the game prep. But with it being the weekend off, we give the guys the long weekend just to we had a bit of a tough session on the Thursday, so I give them a little bit of a longer break to recover. I know it's early on in the season, but I'm a big believer in that. If you can give the players a little bit of time back, they'll reward you with the efforts that they bring back to training as well. It's a long, long season, so the more time they can spend with the family when we can give them that, then I'm a massive believer in doing that. So we're giving that long weekend, and last night came to training first session back, and they're absolutely perfect last night. Really, really good attitude, effort wise, and everything that we asked from them were brilliant. So it gives them that little bit of reward that they know next time they're going to get a weekend off, they'll get a little bit longer break as well.
Fantastic stuff. We'll talk about your destination a bit later on in the show, but it'd be amiss of us not to start where the action was. What a phenomenal advertisement for Championship Rugby League this weekend was. We had games so tight right across the piece. From your perspective, it must be heartwarming to see the competition in such great fettle.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, there's three games that were decided in the last couple of minutes of the game. And I think that's what everybody wants in a competitive competition. Really, we want games that are that the nip and tuck all the way through. You don't want blowout scores, and I think that's what we saw this weekend. That there's a potential this year in Championship for it to be how the fixtures have been, how they've been organised. On the hierarchical fixture list. I think it's bringing up these games now where you're going to have teams that are flying up the division based on the fixtures that they've got and the results that they're having. I think it makes for interesting reading all the way through the season.
Couldn't agree with you more, mate. We'll start where we obviously this time last week we were talking about the game that was London against Oldham. It was, of course, the big build match, and I thought it actually lived up to that. I thought it was a good game of rugby league. Some contentious decisions in there as well, which we'll go through. London coming through 25 points away, which for me flattered London a little bit. I thought Oldham were tighter than that. That's how it felt. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I've not seen the full game. I watched the first half, so I watched it up to half time on the live stream, and I thought it was a game that were nip and tuck. I thought London came up with quite a few soft errors in that first half as well, maybe trying to play a little bit too much. And I guess that's what you're going to get with London this year with the exciting players that they've got. They're going to want to play. They're going to want to score tries. And I think as an opposition team, defensively, if you can stick in with them and be solid around the middle of the park where they are strong, that they might try and play their way out of trouble every now and again. And then it's up to you then to capitalise on picking up the scraps if and when they do come. But they showed the true class, did London, the players that they've got, the calibre of players that they've got, and they've got enough on that field, whichever 17's playing to get them over the line, even when they're not playing to 100% of their capability.
Yeah, and I've seen Dean Hawkins a few times now. Very impressed with Dean Hawkins early doors this season. I mean, look, it's very, very early in the campaign, but there's no doubt about it. If he carries on playing the way he started this season, he's going to be in contention for a Player of the Season award because he really is catching the eye, isn't he?
Yeah, we mentioned at the start of the season, didn't we? I think in the first one of these that we did that he's a real key signing for London and a marquee player. I guess Cameron Gill has got the media accolades. I guess he's the big name that's come in, but for me, Dean Hawkins is the standout player. He's absolutely superb. He's a different class on his day. I think even when he's only 50%, he's too good for the Championship, and he could potentially, if he doesn't go up with London, then he could be in Super League next year with another team because he is that good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Now, look, I mean, in terms of this game, like I say, for me, it was tighter than the 25-8. There was a couple of decisions that went against Oldham. I think Oldham showed that they're going to be thereabouts if all things being well this season. There was a couple of things. I mean, the first one, Campbell Gillard's try. I've seen them chalked off. It wasn't the cleanest of grounding, should we say?
No, it won, and when I watched it live, I thought, did he impede the fullback when he went through for the ball? Yeah. But I think on the replay, I think the referee were in a really good position. Looking back, that's my first impression. Well, maybe when he was competing for the ball, he's impeded the fullback to try and get the ball. But the more I looked at the replay, I thought it was the correct decision at the end of the day. But as you say, live, them decisions are 50-50. They can go either way, and it depends on the vision of the referee and the interpretation of what he saw at that moment in time. But I think looking at the looking at the incident myself, I've got no complaints with the try decision.
No, and the big swing, of course, came in the second half. Josh Drinkwater trying to floaty ball over to Jake Bibby. Brilliant interception from Liam Tyndall, and he goes the full length of the field, and that really was the killer blow to Oldham on the day. Of course, if Bibby goes in at that point, he's back to game on, and that's what I mean. It's on little moments of play. Brilliant eyes up rugby from Liam Tyndall, but moments like that, swing games. If Bibby goes in at the corner, we've got a right game on. Unfortunately, it was an interception. Great for the Broncos, and that was the moment of the game.
Yeah, and that's what good teams do. They can have the backs against the wall and they can pull something out of nothing. Either creative play when they've got the ball in their hands, or like you said there, that it's a defensive read where Liam Tyndall's made that right decision. He's gone and got the ball. If he makes the wrong decision, it goes over his head. Then it can be it's a 10 or 12 point swing the opposite way. But he collects the ball, goes the full length, and that's game, set, and match. And that's what good teams do. They kill them. They kill them clinical moments in games just to turn teams off.
Yes, absolutely. And again, the scoreline would have been closer had it not been for Harvey Makin's try being chalked off in the second half. The ball was clearly on the line. It was a knock-on or it was a try, and it was given as held up, which was, I know everyone, there's no cameras at these games, and we get that. And I think if there are cameras and it goes up, the chances are it's either a knock-on or it's a try. It was a held up. It didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. The game was done at that point. Anyway, but what I'm trying to get across here again is that bit that Oldham were in this game. They were competitive right to the end. They kept on going, to their absolute credit. And, like I say, all things being well, I think they showed that they will have a say in this season. Everybody's saying it's a London Broncos walkover. But I think Oldham showed that, no, there's vulnerabilities there for London. And if you go and play your rugby and you back yourselves, you're going to fare well against them, and they will be turned over at some point.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's massively important is that you don't just write the season off as everybody's competing for second place in the league. I think it's really important that every team goes in, and they will do. Every team, every coach, every player will go into every game thinking that they're going to win. And I think that's really important. And as you say there, it's going to come at some point this year. You would expect that London are going to lose a game. So every team will be wanting to be that first team that knocks them off the pedestal that everybody's put them on. There's a lot of pressure under London this year. They're expected to win every game that they play, and that's what the media have put on them, that they're the Super League team in waiting, just got to get through this season, win everything this year, and then they're going to go up to Super League based on their IMG scores if they get better. But so there is a lot of pressure on them to achieve and perform. But as you say, Oldham have shown this week that there are some vulnerabilities there, and it's up to the teams that play them week in, week out to make sure that they make them clinical moments count and execute the chances that they get.
Couldn't agree more. It'd be amiss of us not to talk what happened after the final whistle. People will be, well, you've got to go there, lads, and we will go there. Mike Ford, we spoke last week. Sorry, there were rumblings that might have been moving on. We spoke after the show last week, and that of course came to pass that he has moved on, citing that he and the club wanted to go in separate directions. That happens, of course, but of course with Sean Long going earlier before the ball was kicked, now Mike Ford going. It's fair to say that the Oldham fans might be getting a little bit jittery. That said, the chairman did come out last night across social media and address the fans, which is to his credit, I have to say. Dialogue is so important in sport, isn't it? And the fact that the chairman came out and clarified his position, the club's position, you'd hope that would ease the fears of the Oldham faithful. Yeah,
you would. And rugby league's a real small community, and there have been sort of rumblings behind the scenes that Mike was going to be leaving, and that had been sort of bubbling under the surface for 2 or 3 weeks. And I think it was just a case of waiting for that to come out. And as we've seen, it got mentioned that he'd made the decision in early January that that's what was going to happen. So we're just waiting for the outcome of that. And he announced it after the London game. But as you said, Bill Quinn's come out and he's made a quite open and honest assessment and statement of the situation. And as an Oldham fan, you've got to trust what Bill's doing. There's nothing, I guess, so far since his tenure back at Oldham there that gives you any reason to doubt him. So you've got to, as an Oldham fan, you've got to trust what he's doing, and everything's going to be all right. And do what you can do as a fan, and that's go and support your team week in, week out, and do what you always do, and support the players and support the chairman, the directors, and anybody else associated with the club, and just be there as supporters, and hopefully everything will turn out well for Oldham.
Yeah, we wish them well. I mean, we need a strong Oldham. I think they've got a squad there that is going to be competitive. So we wish Oldham well, and we hope that everything settles down there for the good of them and for the good of the competition. Right, let's tell you what. I mean, what a game! A Dewsbury Rams 22, Keighley Cougars 20. A 79th minute penalty kick from Jacob Hookham, who actually throughout the game his kicking was incredible. You talk about the importance of both conversions, but in-game kicking, and my lord, did Jacob have a wow game here for the Dewsbury Rams.
Yeah, well, I worked with him at Castleford when he was coming through at Castleford. Never actually broke into that first team and got the chance, but he's certainly shown when he was coming through that he got the potential, he got the ability. There was a little bit of a question mark every now and again over his temperament, but as an halfback, you always get that with halfbacks, don't you? And he's gone off.
Yeah.
And he's shown that you don't need to go into the direct route through Super League academies reserves into first team. You can drop down into the Championship or League One, or the joined up Championship as it is now, and excel. And there is a path there to build your way back into the game and get up into an higher Championship team, or even force your way back into Super League. And he's doing that, and he's showing that by playing for Dewsbury. And if he's playing well, Dewsbury are playing well. And you said that 79th minute penalty goal. It's a brave referee to give a penalty in the 79th minute when the games are tied. That can be a contentious decision either way from whatever sport you are. So brave decision from the referee to give a penalty a minute off the end.
Well, let's give him a wrap. I believe it's Aaron Belafonte who was the referee in that game. And you're right, conviction of a referee. Well done. It is what it is. Rules of the game and all of that. I mean, look, Dewsbury were ahead throughout this game, but you've got to give credit to Keighley. They didn't go away. They managed to get to 20 points apiece, and then finally Dewsbury get the job done. But like I say, what this says to me is, there's a lot of focus on Super League, but in the Heartlands, these type of games, Dewsbury, Keighley, if you're on the I don't know, 10 mile, 15, 20 mile radius of these rugby league, and you love and you're passionate about your rugby league, what a spectacle of rugby league. I mean, old school, proper ding dong, backwards and forwards, no quarter given. I mean, look, there was sin bins for fighting. What more do you want? I mean, it's a dying art, isn't it? And everything, absolutely everything in this game. You've got to, we really want people to go out and, if you're a Super League fan, if your team's away and you can't, like Catalan or Toulouse, and you can't go and, for monetary reasons, go and support them, then get to your local Championship game, because, there's little gems like this waiting for you, isn't there?
Yeah, 100%. I think with what Wakefield have done as well with their season tickets, I think anybody who's got a Wakefield season ticket, they've got access to every Dewsbury home game as well. So that's a great initiative if that's from Wakefield to hopefully support the Heartland teams and the teams outside of Super League. And I think we mentioned last week that even at this stage of the season, the Keighley game was a 4-point game, even at this point of the season, for them two teams that are expecting to be competing around each other and fighting for league positions. So, massively important game, even so early on this season. And with the news last night that Ian Hardman's gone in at Keighley as head coach as well, that'll be a new tenure there, a new era there, and we'll see how Ian does. I think he's been waiting for a shot as a head coach for a number of years. The work that he's done at Featherstone Rovers as assistant, so I think he's well deserving of a shot as a head coach, and hopefully everything goes well for Ian at Keighley.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Well done to both sides. A great spectacle of rugby league. We go to Barrow 38, Salford 4. Salford getting that try in the 71st minute. It was a consolation try. A pretty straightforward win for the Barrow Raiders, this one. Like I say, Salford this year, it's just about galvanising, probably more off-field than on, in terms of just getting the infrastructure right and getting the fans have been incredibly loyal and will continue to be incredibly loyal and will travel in numbers. A good crowd this, over 2,000 for the Barrow-Salford game, which is brilliant to see. Salford fans will be patient, I know, but for Barrow, professional job, well done.
Yeah, start the season really well, haven't they? A week before, 44-0 against Keith, our first game of the season, 44-0 against Workington, sorry. So they've started off scoring points, not conceding many points as well. So they're always very, very good position at Barrow at the start of the season. I mentioned last week, there's not a massive amount of rotation in players at Barrow, so they have that consistency, that continuity and connectivity that they can start the season pretty well. A lot of other teams still finding their feet with no halfbacks playing in key positions, but Barrow, really, really strong team. They've shown over the last 5, 6, 7 years in the Championship that they are a force to be reckoned with. Start of the season, middle of the season, the end of the season as well. And I think they'll be strong all the way through the year. We play them, I think week 3 for us. So that's going to be a tough game for us. So obviously get through Halifax first and then into the Barrow game as well. So it's a tough next couple of weeks for us in the Championship. So looking forward to that as well.
One rises to meet a challenge, Mr. Lingard. One rises to meet a challenge, sir.
Yeah.
But no, well under Barrow sitting top of the Championship after 2 rounds. We now go across to another brilliant game. Swinton Lions took on the Gould Vikings, and the Vikings came away with their first win of the season, 28-24, in another game that was incredible. Brilliant start for Swinton. You know, they flew out the traps. They got 12-0 up, and then they started to get reeled in. Brilliant. Suddenly the game switched 16-12 in Gould's favour. Then back came Swinton Lions to lead up to, I think it was 18-16. Then it was Gould 22-18. Then it was Swinton 24-22. And finally, Gould got over the line 28-24. Again, seesaw battle, exactly what you want to see on a rugby league field. By God, did they get their money's worth that saw this one. But Gould Vikings, great win for them at Swinton. They will be delighted.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, another game where I liked as a 4-point game, even this early in the season. I think we spoke about both teams last week, didn't we? The strides that they're making off the field and hopefully putting foundations down for longer term futures in the game and building from the bottom and working up. And I think the game that they produced and the excitement that they produced, I think again decided by a late score from Gould that that's what you want to watch in a competitive game of rugby league. And as you mentioned before, Super League supporters, if you've not got a game to go and watch a Championship game, it is a slightly different game to what Super League is. It's not quite as fast. It's a bit more physical, a little bit more old school rugby league. So it is a little bit of a different product, but it's a more exciting product as well at times because you get that old school biff every now and again. And you don't always get your 100% athletes where they're chiseled and they've got no rolls of fat and anything like that. Sometimes you've got old school forwards that are big and cumbersome and difficult to put down, and that's the beauty of the Championship. It's a game for all. It's a game for licorice all sorts. Anybody can play that Championship game if they put the commitment in.
The other licorice is available, Mr. Massive. But no, absolutely. And, Tui got the final try right at the death. I mean, it was a heartbreaker, that, isn't it, for Paul Wood and his Swinton team to lose under those circumstances. But like I say, it's what you want. Conor Barley as well going in for a brace on the day. Lots to be happy about the Gould Vikings. We said last week, didn't we? It's a good news story, Gould. And like I say, their supporters will be delighted with that win. Many congratulations to them. Right, we now go to the Widnes Vikings, who, of course, have got Leeds Rhinos. We'll talk Challenge Cup at the end of the show, but Widnes Vikings couldn't have done themselves any better, getting a win over the North Wales Crusaders. We said, Craig, this is almost what do you call them? Freaky Fridays, because these two teams do trade players left, right, and centre. They knew each other well, some of these lads. But yeah, Widnes will be delighted to have got the 28-14 win.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was quite tight in the second half as well, when it was maybe a score either way, and then Widnes obviously just pulled away with a couple of scores later on in the game to make it, I guess, more comfortable than the scoreline suggests. But yeah, any win at this stage of the season is a really important win, and Widnes have started the season great as well, and they'll be looking at kicking on and hopefully flying higher up the table than the mid-table. And North Wales, I think they'll be up there anyway, fighting for them playoff positions with the players that they've got. And I think the performance that they give against Widnes as well, that'll give them a lot of confidence moving forward, particularly with a lot of new players that they've got this year.
Yeah, Jordan Abdul, I mean, a lot of talk about Jordan's fitness levels, etc., but he's a Rolls Royce with ball in hand. He really is. I mean, the brain is as sharp as ever. And I think he's added, just that little bit of kicking game to Widnes this year. I like Widnes as a squad. I think they've got some really good players, especially in the backs. I think they've got genuine pace. And some of their forwards as well, for me, like the likes of Dan Murray, who played well last year and he's started off well this year, Matty Fozzard, etc. Some of these players that they've got are good quality pros. And for me, I almost felt last year Widnes underachieved. I felt they should have done better than, I know they had a lot of injuries, but, if you're Widnes Vikings, if you're Alan Cole, you want a big season this year, don't you?
Yeah, you definitely do. And as you touched on there, I think a lot of the season can be dictated on the injuries that you get. If you get injuries to key players and key performers, you can't get people in. That does massively impact on you. And it's difficult. They struggled a lot with injuries last year. But as you say, you look at the Widnes squad, a lot of the players that they've got vastly experienced in Championship. really experienced Championship players, and they've got that sprinkle of Super League quality there as well. So I think the squad that Widnes have got on paper, it's a very, very good squad. A lot of squad depth as well. They've started to bring some other players in as well. Sam Bove was coming from OKR on loan for the season. There's rumours that they're looking at a Super League prop as well coming in, which will bolster their squad as well. So you're expecting that if they stay fit, injury free, then they're going to be a real force to be reckoned with at the top end of the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Well done. And again, over 4,000 at the Widnes game, which again is fantastic. Well done to Widnes fans for getting down there and supporting your side. Wonderful stuff. Right, let's move to White. We said that Newcastle might not relish going to Whitehaven. I was wrong. 54 points to 6 says so. I mean, you have said quite openly that you expect Newcastle to be a real contender this year, and off the back of 2 very tough games that you've had against them, this probably backs up your theory that Newcastle will be a force in the Championship this time around.
Yeah, I think so. It's no secret that the training pretty much full time with York. I think York are training with 40 odd players. So they're in a full time environment, and it's that full-time training. It does make a massive amount of difference to your strength, your physicality, your nutrition, everything throughout the week. If you're not going to work day in, day out like a lot of people are, you're just concentrating solely on rugby. You've got the additional hours where you can do your little individual skills or your edge skills, which you can't always build into your training sessions as a part-time player. If you're on a hired pitch, you're limited to the amount of time that you can get on that pitch unless it's your pitch. But at this time of year, when you're on grass pitches with the weather as it is, groundsmen being groundsmen, they don't want you on the pitch as much as potentially you want to get on there. But if you're training that full-time environment and building them connections, they're going to be switched on and tuned on from week one, from minute one of the season. And we've seen in the first 2 games that they've played that they are a force to be reckoned with this year. And I think they'll only go from strength to strength.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with you more. They're looking aside at Newcastle, and that's good to see. Rochdale 20, Workington 14. Another great game of rugby league. Again, very, very tight for long periods in this. A wonderful try. An absolute belting try in this game. I think it was the Hornets. Trying to remember. Was it Boyd? One of Boyd's. Buddy got a brace. Really liked it. Rochdale, good win. Workington travelled well in this one. Your thoughts on Rochdale, Workington, Craig?
Yeah, Rochdale started really well. Really pleased for Gary Thornton. Obviously, know Gary Thornton from my Batley days, and he's been around a long time now as a coach, and he'll be really pleased with how they've started the game. I think the halfbacks that they've got at Rochdale, particularly Jamie Dallimore with his experience in kicking games, scored a couple of tries from their halfbacks kicking to the corner for the wingers, and 2 wingers that are scoring tries for fun, and they've always done that. Last year scored a lot of tries, so they've got a lot of threats on the edges with the kicking game from their halfbacks. So, again, a game we identified last week as 2 teams that might be in and around the same sort of area in the league, and another 4-point game this early on in the season. And Rochdale 2 from 2, they'll be really happy with that.
They will indeed. And you mentioned Dallimore. I know Joe Hickey from his development years, and Joe is a really good young player as well. So yeah, you're right. That combination for Rochdale this year, one to keep an eye on. Right, let's move to what arguably again shot off the page when we were talking last week. Halifax Panthers 28, Batley Bulldogs 10. A word for your compadre, the coach, a coach's nightmare. This just before half time. It was a real good quality first half, toe to toe, no quarter given, and then just before half time, the Bulldogs, wow, is all I would say. Conceded a try to Zenon, which was a very well taken try, I have to say. I thought the Tanguy Zenon try, very, very nice. Shades of the one that you guys scored in the Challenge Cup, albeit probably not as far out or as good. But then the Ben Crooks. I mean, as a coach, for those who haven't seen this, the hooter goes, and it's like the Tano was like the underground, mind the gap, because the Batley Bulldogs just basically just down tools. It was like they were waiting for one of the mates to tackle Ben Crooks. And the gap, dearie me, even a gondola could have gone through there. And from Venice, it was that big. And Ben Reynolds, he was filthy, absolutely filthy on it. Craig, as a coach, that happens just before half time. Let's be honest. complete indiscipline in defence. I'll say it, complete indiscipline in defence. As a coach, when that happens, what's at half time like?
It's not great. It's not great. You're probably walking down. You're probably walking down from your seat in the stand. Uta goes, and it's a bounce pass ball. It's the floor. Then Ben Crooks picks the ball up, and as you say, just goes straight through from 30, 35 metres out, and there's not anybody in any close proximity to him. I think it's just that case of the Uta's gone, and everybody on the Batley side has just breathed out, right, get into half time now and have a drink, and he's under the sticks, and it goes from a one score game at half time to a two score game, and it just totally changes the complexion of the game. You know, Halifax go in there, obviously buzzing, and that takes them up another level. Batley, it's a big kick in the you know what's, and then they're sat down with their heads down in the changing room. And as a coach, it's, you know, as frustrated as you are, you've got to try and flip your mindset to make sure that the players don't see it as too much of a negative. But you can't get away from the fact that when that does happen, it does have a massive impact on your half time. And I've been on the receiving end of both of that, where you've scored either just before half time or just before full time to win the game or to take the lead. Or you've conceded a late try in either half, and it is a little bit of a kicker, is that, to be fair?
Honestly, I think there have been a few cups maybe kicked at
Yeah.
that one, but like I said, they never recovered. They never recovered, and I think it probably took a lot of sap out of Batley as well, because even though they did get a try to tighten it up a little bit, that for me, you talk about moments in games that change games. We talked about the intercept at London. That 5 minutes before half time at Halifax pretty much was the game, and Batley never recovered. But a brilliant win for Halifax. And yeah, I'm sure Mr. Crooks had a good old chuckle at full time when he was telling his family about that one. I don't think he scored an easier try in his career. Incredible stuff. But I'd say I'm delighted for Craig, and I'm sure you are as well. We talked about Project Midlands, Earl Crabtree doing a great job down there, and everybody associated with the club doing a great job down there. Of course, moved to Avery Fields. I didn't expect this. I think I was quite dismissive last week of the Midland Hurricanes getting anything out of the game with Doncaster. 26-24. Another game that went, you know, right down. A 75-minute try in this one from Matty Chimes gives the win to the Midland Hurricanes. What a moment for the Hurricanes to get off and running in the Championship this year.
100%, mate. Yeah, I think it's got to go down as probably their best win in their existence. You know, the biggest win in their existence for me. I might be speaking out of term, I don't know, but you know, when you beat a team like Doncaster, who you're expecting to be challenging at the top end of the table this year, the players that they've got, a significant squad that Doncaster have got this year, it is a fantastic result for them, in particular after the week previous losing the opening game to Newcastle. That have maybe seen this, and the so-called experts that are seeing this and think they played two, lost two, but you know, they've gone out and they've won that game, and a massively good performance from them. I think at the start of the game, 16-0 up at the start of the game. So, you know, opposite side to that is that Doncaster were really disappointed how they started the game. But I've not seen the try live, but you look at the pitch, you talk about potential debatable decisions. There's a picture where he scores it's a great camera shot as well, but he's got his hand on the actual dead ball line at the side of the field, and the ball's down. You don't know the sequence, whether the ball's gone down, his hand's gone down, whether his hand's gone down, the ball's gone down. But there is a shot there that shows it might potentially be debatable, but not taking anything away from Midlands. It's a fantastic result for them.
And you know, and it's situations like that. I mean, we've done a lot of work, as you know, with the referees in terms of trying to, you know, get them out and talking. Tara Jones has done an interview with us. Aaron Moore has done one. They've retired Ian Smith. At this level, when it's two touch judges and a referee, they can't get every decision right. It's an impossibility for them to get a decision right. And sometimes we over sanitize a sport. Unfortunately, the nature of sport is you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. This is what people talk about in the pub at the end of the game. You don't want to be on the wrong end of it. Of course you don't. I get that. But it's human nature, isn't it? And you know, we've just got to put it down to that. You don't know frame by frame how that went, do you? And it could be that the referee got it spot on.
It's part and parcel of the game. You know, even with the amount of cameras that we've got in Super League, there's still decisions that aren't right. With VAR in football, there's people that complain about VAR in football that is sanitising the game. It's slowing the game down. They're still getting decisions wrong, even with all the camera angles that they've got there. You know, so it is human nature. Unless you want to do it by a computer and you're doing it by millimeters and you're stopping the game down, you might as well not have a referee then. So there's got to be some acceptance that people are going to get things wrong. as players, you get things wrong. You drop a ball, you're offside, you forward pass, so the players don't get everything right. So I think it's unrealistic for us to expect that the referee and the touch judges are going to get everything right every single time in the game. Yeah, it is going to be frustrating, but you hope that them decisions even themselves out throughout the season. As a coach, it is frustrating at times when you have that perception where things do go against you. But again, you've just got to wear it and accept that certain things happen. It is human nature, and that's why we love the sport. That you, like you say, you get into the pub at the end of the game and you've got these talking points, and depending what colour spectacles that you've got on, what team that you watch, and the referee's had a great game or he's had a poor game. Generally, when you've lost, he's had a poor game.
And half of the time, it's nothing to do with the referee. It's what's happened
No,
on the field of play, isn't it?
yeah.
Let's be crystal on that. Let's be
It
crystal.
is, and I've done it myself where I've watched the game back where I've had a different perception of the game live, and I might have seen a decision or had my thoughts on what decision might be. But then when you watch the game back during your review, you see it slightly differently. You take the emotion out of it, and you sat there watching it in your front room with a coffee, and you think, well, actually, I can see why they've come up with that decision, and that's that is how it is. You've got to try and take the emotion out of it as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. We'll just pay a little tribute as well. Alex Max currently leading the top try scoring charts in the Championship. He's had 4 this season. Well done to him. Top point scorers with 22 each. Brad Walker, Jack Smith, and Matty Baharrell. Well done to those as well. Fantastic stuff. Wonderful. Right, let's get into the weekend ahead. And of course, your side are back on the field of play. We'll start on Friday night. Actually, we're spending a day, spending a night with Craig and the Sheffield Eagles and access all areas with Sheffield Eagles for this Betfred Challenge Cup third round game at Halliwell Jones Stadium. I'll be meeting Craig off the bus and we'll be basically shadowing Craig throughout this game at the Halliwell. Unprecedented access to the Sheffield Eagles for this one. We thank him and the club for allowing us to do that. Whilst, you're going to say everything that is politically correct, everybody would expect a Warrington win. Warrington go into this as favourites. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. So as much as I know that you're going to say you're going there to not make the numbers up and you're going there to win, and who knows, anything can happen in sport. What are the absolute key elements that you're looking for from your team, whether it be win, lose or draw? What are you demanding from your Sheffield Eagles? What will be the wins for you on Friday night?
Yeah, we've obviously done the review on Warrington from their first 2 games this season against Widnes and Lee, and they look very, very strong, look very, very physical. Everything that Warrington do, it seems to be to try and generate a one-on-one contest against their opponent. They would then back themselves individually to win that one-on-one contest, whether it's defensively or offensively around the ruck. We need to make sure, first and foremost, that we try and have a tight middle. Warrington around the ruck, they try and with Danny Walker jumping out at 9, he wants that marker to bite in. And then the hitting a lead runner straight on the inside shoulder of that A defender to get a leg tackle, to get a quick play of the ball. And then before you know it, you're in that washing machine as a defensive team on the back foot. You lose a ruck, you lose a ruck, you lose a ruck. So we've said that we want to try and tighten up the middle of the park as much as we possibly can. Easier said than done against a big physical side, but that's what we're going to try and do. And if they want to try and play around us, then let them try and play around us, test the skill, and then we've got to try and defend the edges as best we can from that. So we've also said as well that the little things that we're still working on during pre-season and in preparation for this game isn't necessarily just a Friday. It's to take us into next week against Halifax, a week after against Barrow, into week 18, 19 of the season. That all the little details, all the little sort of 1% areas that you talk about, the details that when you are tired that you need to get right, the communications with your teammate on the inside and the outside, the work in the ruck, the tactile touching and talking, what you do around the marker area, getting back with the referee, your line speed, all these little things. If you get the details right when you're tired, the details will get you out of trouble. So we're still looking at learning and developing as a group and as a team, and it's getting these little stuff right that we can hopefully work on, like I said, not just for this Friday, but for next week against Halifax and then moving forward from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned there the ruck speed and Danny Walker in and around the ruck. Of course, the new interpretation this year in trying to speed up the ruck speed. We were having a chat last night on Weekly. And I'd love to get your take on this as a coach in the game. The 6 again. There's a lot of people who don't like 6 again. There's a lot, it keeps coming into scrutiny, and it does put pressure on referees because again, it's that immediate interpretation. And the conversation we had last night was when it came in, we sort of got it. It was to try and get more tries, to try, quicker play the balls, to give the attacking team on the front foot a bit of an advantage. We never agreed with it in terms of it being 6 again in your own half. For me, that was a nonsense. You'd rather have a penalty and get the yardage. That was always a bit of a nonsense. for me, and again, this is just my thoughts. I'm sure you might even shoot me down, but this is how I see six again. Six again, if interpreted in the case of right, the attacker has won collision or on the front foot. Yes, there's a bit of skullduggery going on in terms of maybe holding down or whatever. My criticism of six again is that a lot of the time a six again is given and the defensive line is back set. So therefore, you're not really getting an advantage because the defensive line is set. In those moments where there's a break and, a player goes down, defenders are retreating, six again, you still might have an advantage on the edge. But if the defensive line is set for me, you're not really getting an advantage. I think at that point, surely the player and the team should decide, do they want to tap or do they want to kick? Because, the margins now, as we've seen in the Championship today, very, very tight. So, a six again under the post, it could be tactically that, no, actually, we want to. I mean, what's your take on it? I mean, are you a fan of six again? Do you think it's been good for the game? Am I right? Is it somewhere in between? How do you see it?
I'm a little bit neutral on it, to be fair, because it depends on what the reason is it's brought in. The reason it was brought in was to try and speed the game up, so it's not a penalty every single time. So you're not having the referee to walk to the spot and give the penalty. You get the ball, you kick it into touch, you get the ball from the touchline to the tap line, then you start again. You could potentially lose 30 seconds of the game there with just giving the penalty, kicking the ball out, and the defensive team getting back on side and restarting the game. So I understand the reason why it was brought in. I think the interpretation around the rucks is always going to be debatable. That's going to be the issue, and I think certain instances are let go, or certain instances are penalised, particularly early on. And I think there's certain rucks that if it were the first 3, 4, 5 minutes of the game where the referee's trying to stamp his or her authority on the game, on what the ruck speed should be, are penalised. But then later on in the game, because we don't want the game that's got 25 six agains or 25 penalties each time, each side, then certain things are let go because they don't want it to be seen as a scrappy game and a stop-start game. So again, it's getting that balance right of what do you penalise, what do you not penalise, what do you let go. I think I'm a big believer in you. I think it depends on what part of the game is. If it's 12 all and there's a minute left and you're in the opponent's 20-metre area and you get a six again, then for me, I'd like to have that choice of they've infringed. It's a professional foul. We're leveling the game. We'll take the 2 points. We'll kick the goal. But then again, you've got it's the interpretation of when do you offer the team that? Do you stop it and say, hang on a minute, we'll take time off? Do you want the six again or do you want the penalty? Which then defeats the purpose of the six again because you're slowing the game down even more to ask the question. I think there's some common sense there about where you are on the game, on the time of the game.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's a pivotal point of the game. As you just described there, 12-all, why do we want a six again? I want a shot at goal. Exactly. So I think, like I said, maybe a blend. I think there's a lot of things there that you said that I think we're aligned with. Again, I think it's one of those areas of the game that there's probably no right or wrong answer. It's just, but I do know it does frustrate some supporters. And of course, there's that, oh, well, they got six against, we got two. The ref was biased. Well, no, actually, you infringe six times. I mean, I'm a great believer that the referees have integrity, and I'd never buy into the fact that the referees are purposely trying to swing the game. But this is what supporters say. So it's an interesting chat. Yeah. It's an interesting chat. It really is.
I just think on the referees there, I think what supporters need to understand is that the referees are reviewed on every single performance. Correct. And they've got to watch the game back. They've got to review their own game. Another referee will review their game as well. So their performance is constantly scrutinised. So I think there's a perception sometimes that a referee will ref a game. One set of supporters will think, well, we've conceded 8 penalties this week. Then nothing ever happens to that referee. He gets away with it. They're constantly scrutinised week in, week out. And if their performance is deemed as being insufficient, then they might have games taken off, and they might be made the fourth official or touch judge or drop down to Championship. So there are consequences there. But what we've also got to remember is that referees are an integral part of the game, whether it's in Super League, Championship, the junior game or the community game. And people are leaving the game left, right and centre because of the abuse that they're getting, particularly at junior games. I go and watch my kid play on a weekend, my youngest kid who's 10-year-old. And I'll stand on my own. I'm not a sociable person anyway, so that's the main reason why I stand on my own.
But I'd say that as a compliment. Carry on.
Yeah. But I just hate listening to people on the sideline shouting about coaching the kids from the sidelines or having a go at the referee. The 10-year-old kids or 12-year-old kids or 13-year-old kids, let them play. If you want to coach as a parent, put your boots on, get your coaching badges, get on the other side of the fence. If not, shut your mouth, let your kids play, let them enjoy it, because they'll be looking at you, they'll be looking at the coach thinking, who do I listen to? Exactly the same with the referee. Parents will stand on the side of the pitch and they'll berate referees for their decisions. This referee might be a 14, 15-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And if they're getting slagged left, right, and centre, what's that going to do to them about the perception about that career choice that they want to do? They might not want to do it as a career choice. It might be something that they do in their own spare time as a hobby, as their activity. Let them get on with it. You know, if you can't be quiet, just get away from it. Go down to the pub, go and have a cig somewhere else, or do what you need to do. But if you want to be a supportive parent, stand there and support. Shut up. Let the coaches coach. Let the referee.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Couldn't agree with you more. Wonderful stuff, eh? Great stuff, this Championship Rugby League, isn't it? Wonderful stuff. Right,
I'm just going to get off the soapbox now. Sit down.
Yeah. Well, as I always say, other soapboxes are available. Hunslet, Huddersfield Giants. Good game, it should be a good game. Hunslet against Huddersfield, but you'd expect Huddersfield to come through that. Workington take on Saints. I think that's probably going to be a hefty score. I think Paul's going to see that as the last run out before Warrington, and I think he's going to pick a very strong squad, and he's going to be no mercy. That's my take on that one. Hull KR, Lock Lane. Yeah. I
think I know we mentioned it a little bit last week. I think all Super League coaches this week will see this as, again, not being disrespectful, but they'll see it as a last friendly before the competitive season starts. So I'd be very, very, very surprised if every Super League team that are playing didn't run a full strength side.
Absolutely, couldn't agree with you more. KR, I think we could see 3 figures against Lock Lane. I know that he's resting. He said he's resting the Ashes England boys, but they've still got bags of quality there. KR, I see that being quite hefty. Hull FC, Salford. Again, you don't see any issues there for FC. Casper Tigers go up against Doncaster. Ryan Carroll want a good showing there. And he really will going into, of course, that first game against Wigan, which is close to a sellout, or it might even be a sellout. Brilliant stuff to see that. And then we got York against Barrow. Could be interesting. York Barrow, couldn't it? That could be an interesting game.
The way that Barrow started, they're always, as I said previously, always a real top end Championship team of Barrow, and they're full of confidence. Defensively, not conceding many points. Offensively, scored 70 or nearly 80 points this season already. So they'll be full of confidence going into that game.
Yeah, Mark will probably feel a little bit of pressure there because, Barrow top a Championship. All of a sudden, that's not the easiest draw in the world. York will be expected to come through it, but I think Barrow will have a say. That's and I'd expect Barrow may even stream that one. Keep your eyes out on the Barrow socials if they're streaming it. That could be a really good game. A 6:00 kickoff on Saturday, that one. So if it is being streamed, that could be entertaining. Lee Leopards take on the North Wales Crusaders. We don't see any issues there. Catalan go to Batley. That'll be interesting to see Joel Tompkins' side go to Batley. But then we get into some really interesting games in this Challenge Cup third round. We'll start with the All Championship affairs. Keighley Cougars going up against Midland. Off the back of that Midland hub against Midland last week, that's going to be a game because Keighley just missing out last week. That could be close.
It could be close, yeah. It's an all championship game. I think you'd probably side with Midlands on that one based on the fact that they got the victory last week against Doncaster. They'll be fully confident. Keith are licking the wounds a little bit from the defeat at Jews with a new head coach coming in this week with Ian Adman going in there. Their players obviously wanting to make a good impression on him. And do they get the new head coach bounce that you sometimes get in football? Is it too early in the season for that? I don't know, but you'd certainly be expecting, I guess, Midlands to be slight favourites for that one.
Yeah, Halifax Gould. Gould, a good win last week. Halifax. But like I say, but it'd have been interesting had that last 5 minutes not have happened in the first half in terms of the Halifax game. Like I say, I think that was a massive swing. And Gould will be confident off the back of this weekend just gone. That could be a belter, and that probably will be streamed. Halifax do tend to stream their games, so that's 3:00 on Sunday. That could be a game.
Yeah, it could. I listened to Kyle Eastman's post-match interview, and he was very, very critical of his team's performance against Batley. Talking about the standards as a group that he wants to instill. He said if it were year one, he could understand it, but it's now in year two, and it's not the sort of standards that he's going to accept and the sort of performance that he's going to accept. So I would expect a reaction from Halifax. So I'll probably be tipping Halifax there to put in a real strong performance to get back into Kyle Eastman's good books, I guess.
And of course, all eyes on Oldham with what's gone on this week. Oldham taking on Dewsbury at home. It would go a long way, wouldn't it, to just calm things down on the terraces, maybe, if Oldham go and get a win and get through to the fourth round.
Yeah, I think so, and I think you'd be tipping that, wouldn't you? With Oldham, with the players that they've got, they'll be looking for, say, that bounce back from the disappointing defeat against London, but also, again, as you say, trying to get a little bit of a feel good factor in there following the announcement this week with Mike Ford leaving. So they'll be looking again for a real good performance and a win from that.
Yeah, quarter final, of course, potential for both sides. We'll skip to Rochdale against Wigan, Swinton against Wakey. You'd expect with the rosters that Wigan and Wakey have got, that should be plain sailing for those two. I just can't see anything other than a Wigan and a Wakefield win. Hopefully, both Rochdale and Swinton give a good account of themselves. But what I do want to talk about are the two games that we know will be definitely available for people watching this to watch at the weekend. Widnes Vikings take on the Leeds Rhinos Saturday. It's at 3:00, and the Sportsmen are covering it. The Sportsmen on YouTube will be showing this game. Now, again, whilst Leeds quite rightly go into this favourite, I would say just be a note of caution. Warrington went to Widnes, if you remember, last year and very nearly fell. I mean, we know that Warrington at the time were in shocking form. Confidence wasn't high at all. But that is a note to Rhinos fans that, you're going to have to go down there. You're going to have to earn the win. I'm not saying that Rhinos are going to lose it. But if Widnes can put on a performance, it won't be plain sailing for Leeds.
No, it won't. I think it depends on how you start the game. So Widnes will be looking to try and get into that first 10, 15, 20 minutes, get into an arm wrestle, keep it nice and tight, maybe make it a bit scrappy, kick the ball out of play, don't let Leeds get on the front foot, maybe slow it down a little bit, slow the tempo down to try and keep the juice in the tank rather than keeping the ball in play. But you would expect that Leeds would be too strong, and so they should be as well. But it's not out of the realms of possibility that if it gets towards half time and it's still close and there's a score in it, then that's when teams start getting nervous. They've not been in them sort of situations before, potentially. So I think that's the key to Widnes, is to try and make Leeds as nervous as possible, keep it as tight as it possibly can, make it as scrappy as it possibly can. And if any opportunities come, they've got to nail every single one of them. They can't be missing one opportunity in that game.
No, well worth a watch. Well worth a watch. That's going to be a great game. 3:00, the Sportsman this Saturday. And then the one that, again, when the draw was made, Casford last year, of course, went to Bradford. Bradford turned them over at this stage of the competition. And this year, it's Bradford that people are looking at because they're going up against London. Now, from a London perspective, if they were to get to the quarterfinal, Project London, under Lockyer, etc., and trying to get to Super League, it's a great narrative. It gets headlines, it gets eyes on the sport, especially down under, etc. If they was to pull this one off. So, Kurt Egerty's side's got that weight on them in this, perhaps the other Super League teams haven't got, because I think people are sharpening the knives a little bit here that London can do this and get through. So it's a statement, isn't it? I mean, it's almost a statement from Bradford. If they go down there all the nerve and get a good win against London, it's a good morale boost, because I think Bradford Bulls players must know that the jungle drums are banging, that people are baying for blood here, aren't they? A little bit.
Oh yeah, 100%, yeah, mate. And I think what you've also got as well is you've got some people within rugby league that saying that Bradford shouldn't be in Super League, they shouldn't have got in Super League, it should have been London. So you've got that aspect of it as well. You've got London who've recruited heavily this year, and that you could argue that their squad's potentially just as good as Bradford's on paper. Bradford now being a Super League team under a new coach, they'll be wanting to put a real good performance in and lay a marker down under Kurt Egerty in his first competitive game. So it's got all the hallmarks of a real exciting competition, real exciting contest. And I'm on the fence with this one. It could go either way. It really could go either way.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating game. I mean, look, what's better? What's better? What is better, Craig? I ask anybody, for the love of God, I would say, what is better on a Sunday afternoon at 3? Remember that, when rugby league was played at 3:00 on a Sunday afternoon? Hey, dear me, we're showing our age now, mate. But yeah, I mean, what's better? 3:00, tuck into your roast dinner, have the game on. London against Bradford, beautiful stuff. It's on the BBC iPlayer. I, for one, will certainly be watching that with great interest. Should be a really, really good game. As always, Craig, a massive thank you from me to you for your time. It's a great addition to our programme schedule, this. I'm loving our conversations every week. Looking forward as well to your company this Friday. That's going to be absolutely wonderful to be in around your company for a few hours. Really looking forward to that. I would, as I always say, go well. You know, this time I'm saying that with probably gritty for obvious reasons, mate. But no, I hope you really have a good showing at the Halliwell on Friday. Really looking forward to meeting up with you. And of course, we get to do this again next week when we will unpack the Challenge Cup third round. And of course, we will look forward to the next round of the Betfred Championship with Craig. Craig, until we meet again on Friday, mate, thanks for your time. All the best.
My pleasure, mate. Look forward to it.